I'm here with Nick Dolin, the producer of HBO's Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Jared.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for being here. Well, first of all, I just wanted to ask you kind of how you got into your producing role with Real Sports and HBO in particular.
I had been in print journalism out of college, and I had worked at a couple of magazines. I was at New York Magazine and then Esquire Magazine, and a newspaper called the National Sports Daily. And the idea was a daily sports newspaper here in America. I worked at the National for about 18 months. And when the National died, I went to work I got into television. I worked for the Charlie Rose Show for 4 years. And then in 1995, I landed at Real Sports in its first season. And we're currently in our 29th season. Go figure. Got to Real Sports as a researcher, associate producer, and I got very early on, got an opportunity to start producing pieces, and I never looked back. The best job of my life.
Since you kind of came from print journalism, what made you want to produce?
What Real Sports set out to do in 1995 was something really different, to apply basic journalistic principles to sports. The kind of journalistic principles you saw more in print at places like Sports Illustrated, where the coverage of the sport was not just about who won and who lost. The show was born to look at the intersection of sports and culture, politics and race and gender, and all the different ways in which you can tell stories through the lens of sports. We're looking to tell stories through sports that have a broader meaning than who won or lost a game.
It sounds like a lot of the stories are trying to kind of ring some bells and make some noise about issues, like you said, that are sports issues, but not really sports issues. Is one of your goals as producer of this show to kind of make an impact?
I believe what you should do is you should look for good stories, and you should try to tell them as well and as fairly as you possibly can. That's obviously that's the goal of journalism. If you try to do a story to change something, I think you're gonna get yourself in trouble. You're not going to be able to see the story as clearly as you need to. I think the goal of the journalism should be to show what the situation is. You know what happens after the story is really out of our hands. Sometimes when we do a story, because it's a national story, it has a larger impact. That's just a fact of what we do. But you can't do stories to have an impact. You have to do stories that you think you can tell well, that you can tell fairly, that you can tell in such a way that you don't distort the facts. And then its impact, it's no doubt that it could have an impact, and we're aware of that. In fact, the kind of impact a story has may in fact increase the intensity with which we try to make sure we get it right.
So how do you kind of push emotion to the side and try and keep it completely objective and fair?
I mean, that's a hard thing to do, and you can't always put your emotion aside. Journalists are human people. I think the best way to manage your bias or whatever your feelings, your own emotional feelings are, is to acknowledge them. And I think we approach all of our stories with that a kind of a level of intensity. I hope we do anyway. That's the goal.
With a really emotional story like that, how do you and your staff kind of take care of your own mental health?
We don't really have a way to handle that other than talking to each other, and we do that a lot. We're a very small group. It's about 15 of us that produce the show. We each, do 3 to 4 stories a year. So we have time to work on them, time to process the experience. And yeah, you're right. It absolutely can be emotional.
I really appreciate that. Thank you again so much for your time.
My pleasure. Good luck. Take care,
Thank you
Jared.
so much. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Be good.